I go. The people really wanna know who I is and who I be. They stop and stare when they see me. If I said it once, no need to repeat. Run up on me, watch you fall to your knees. Tip my hat when it's time for the kill. Ain't no beast when you're really real. I am the boss, I am the Don. I am the one they call Lucky Charm. Got my own shit, I don't need your farm. Life was so hard, it made me weak. Built to last, this girl ain't weak. Sturdy and still when I plant my feet. Got it out the mud, now it's racks in my sleep. Look to God, he supplies my needs. Endless faith is what brought me next level prosperity. Silent power moves is what I'm giving. They love to hate the world they can't live in. Always present for the high roads. Go swim within the deep lows. What tells the future? Who knows? I don't do it for the likes, I do it for the love. Do it for the ones who really need a hug, cause they had it tough, never had enough. Feared, loved, and respected. Using words as a weapon. Test and she. Hurry up quick, El Jefe's coming soon. Sit up straight when she enters the room. Be enthused, but don't look too amused. This is her queendom, please respect her rule. Hurry up quick, El Jefe's coming soon. Sit up straight when she enters the room. Be enthused, but don't look too amused. This is her queendom, please respect her rule. Smile in my face, would in my place, but act gully on cyberspace. Let's pump brakes, let's be frank. Running after him when you're the chase. You are the catch and he's the net. How quickly do we all forget to honor these small policies, my darling? You are the empress queen. Man, respect or he'll neglect. You are the wind beneath his wings. You are the season, you are the reason why this world can breathe. Giving sons eyes to see and daughters dreams to believe. Anything less than the best for you is high treason, queen. Hurry up quick, El Jefe's coming soon. Sit up straight when she enters the room. Be enthused, but don't look too amused. This is her queendom, please respect her rule. Hurry up quick, El Jefe's coming soon. Sit up straight when she enters the room. Be enthused, but don't look too amused. This is her queendom.
Sound like Cinderella teens. You should see the things I feel inside these denim jeans. I can't associate with y'all, this shit like ketamine. Been on one, been on two, been on everything. Bitch, I'm with my gang, with my squad, what the fuck you want? Soapy rolling gas, I can't hang, bitch, I'm fucking gone. I got people down from the jump, better know your bonds. I got people just tuning in, and the love is strong. Damn, they gon' want a piece when you got it like that. Like Jake said, we gon' spend it, get it right back. Stack that internet money till the site crash. They on IG tryna get a like back. See, they don't talk that talk, they just type fast. Yeah, we real life, cool, it's really like that. I might roll an eighth inside a blunt, that's a nightcap. Like where my lighter at, boy, I got a flight to catch. Through these ups and these downs, with a guy and a dead thing changed. Don't forget where that sauce came from, best remember my name. You take L's every once in a while, gotta charge to the game. You gotta charge it to the game. Yeah, yeah. Through these ups and these downs, swear to God, ain't a dead thing changed. Don't forget where that sauce came from, best remember my name. Ooh. I'm just trying to make my bread and feed the fam. These fuckboys need to grow up like Peter Pan. Sometimes I get so high, I never land. Ain't no need to overthink it, I already understand. They be plotting on my downfall and need another plan. But we welcome all that hating, I'm like, thank you, come again. Made a stack off the game and gave 100 to my man. I don't owe no money to him, I just did it cause I can. Yeah, round shit, we ain't on no clown shit. You a product of the people that you stick around with. Don't get caught with the people I came up with. Charge a couple else in the game, but I still love it. I keep it low key in order to stay above it. I make it all out of nothing, yeah. Through these ups and these downs, with a guy and a dead thing change. Don't forget where that sauce came from, best remember my name. You take L's every once in a while, gotta charge to the game. You gotta charge it to the game. Yeah, yeah. Through these ups and these downs, with a guy and a dead thing change. Don't forget where that sauce came from, best remember my name. You take L's every once in a while, gotta charge to the game. You gotta charge it to the game. Yeah, yeah.
Welcome to Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wilding in the stand. For laid-back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gonna be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds TV, your favorite Sacramento Kings YouTube channel.
It's right. On today's show, we're breaking down another loss for the Kings, 103-117 to Cleveland. I know everybody wants to talk trades, so we're going to talk more trades. Let's get to it.
We're here, I'm drinking a beer, and we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. Oh, it really does help with these losses. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you enjoy content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. There's also a little cowbell notification bell down there if you'd like to find out when Calvin and I put out a new video. This is your Sacramento Kings nightcap. So as Calvin mentioned in the intro, the Kings lost tonight, 103-117 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. A rough game. I wanted to turn it off at multiple points. Very, very frustrating. And just like how they always do, they give you a little bit of hope at the end there, and then they just rip your heart back out again. But, you know, we got an interesting first lineup with Marvin Bagley starting this season alongside Alex Len. When you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers starting lineup, it's crazy, man. They're almost starting 3 7-footers. One of those guys is 6'11", and then they got 2 guards in there. So it seems like they are trying to do the complete opposite of what the Kings are doing at this point. Calvin, what are your first thoughts on the game?
Well, my first thoughts on the game are, you know, much of the same of what we've seen. It was just very little defensive effort. You have to like the fight that the bench put forth there in the second half, but, I mean, they almost gave up 50 points in the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not going to win any game ever. I don't know what – you have no chance. You know, you can applaud them all you want for the effort that those reserves came in and played with in the third and early fourth quarter. You know, they went on that big run there at the end of the third and into the fourth to make it a game, got it under 10 points. But the bottom line is you can't put yourself in that big of a hole. It doesn't matter how great of a second half you play because you're going to end up coming up short like they did.
I thought the first quarter was bad. I'm like, 36 points? How are you going to give up 36 points and only score 23? And then they only scored 29 in the second, and they give up 45 points. That is crazy. That is so crazy. If you take that one quarter, Cavs are on track to score 180 points in this game.
Yeah, it was wild. And, I mean, the funny thing about it is their half-court defense wasn't great, but it was better than what it was just last night in Charlotte.
Yep.
What they really got destroyed with was transition points. I mean, the Cavs are not a team that they can get out and run. They have some really athletic big men, and they like to throw lobs and stuff like that. We saw Jared Allen handling the ball in the open court. You know, that's a scary sight to see. But this is a team, Cleveland's like in the middle of the pack in points per game. It's not like they score all the time and push the pace. But the Kings had 3 or 4 guys well below the free throw line on a lot of these plays, you know, when Fox or somebody is going to the basket and no effort to get back. And it just led to transition bucket after bucket after bucket, dunk, 3, over and over and over again.
Yep. The Cavs came into this game tonight winning 6 out of their last 8 games. Kings won 3 out of the last 4 after getting demolished last night. It was another no defensive effort for them tonight. You know, the Kings are ranked dead last at points in the paint defense. They allow 52.2 points in the paint per game. And then the Cavs throw out 3 7-footers. One of them that can actually shoot. And then 2 guys that just dominate inside. I don't know how many lobs I saw to Evan Mobley and Jared Allen inside. You know, the Kings really missed out on Richaun Holmes. And I don't even know if he would have made much of a difference in this game.
Probably not. I mean, we knew this was a very, very tough matchup for the Kings going into it. Their backs were against the wall from the beginning here, and there just wasn't. They just didn't have a good enough defensive game plan here. We'll talk about it a little bit later, and it relates to my keys going into next game because they really have to get back to the drawing board.
Yep.
I mean, they're so bad at defending the pick and roll, so bad at it.
Yep. Which is amazing because they have a pretty good pick and roll game themselves when Richaun Holmes and Tyrese
most NBA teams do now. I mean, that's, these guys are everything is predicated on how do I get my best ball handler with a little bit of space or my best creator, for an open shot or to break down the defense to open things up. And it's all about screens. I mean, there's very little true ISO basketball played on a lot of these teams. Certainly you have people like James Harden and guys like that. But, so many of these great guards, it's how can we put them in the pick and roll and make defenses have to choose how to defend them. It's a really difficult task.
It really is. And, the Kings were down 29 points at one point in this game. They tried to come back. They went on a 10-0 run in the third quarter, then late in the third and extending into the fourth, a 19-2 run. Damian Jones had some huge buckets late in the game, including an and one, bringing the Kings within 7 points, and then they just kind of fell apart there again at the end. But, Cal, you want to take a look here at the box score?
Yeah, let's do it. Not much to speak for the starters here. De'Aaron Fox, 13 points on 6 of 14 shooting, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. Harrison Barnes had 12 points and, again, didn't shoot incredibly well, 4 of 10 from the field with 3 rebounds and 3 assists. Tyrese, he kind of evaporated there later in the game. A lot of these guys didn't play a ton of minutes in the second half anyway, but 8 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Off the bench, Buddy Hield leads all Kings scorers with 21 points, 7 of 13 from the floor, and 4 of 10 from 3. Davion Mitchell, 14 points, 5 assists. And Chimezie Metu in 16 minutes, 8 points, 1 rebound. The Cavs have 7 players scoring double figures in this game.
Yeah, the Kings went pretty deep into the bench in this game, and part of that is because they were down 29. Gentry threw out a weird bench lineup of like Mitchell, Jones, Hield, Davis, and they were able to make a little bit of a run there to come back.
Yep.
So that's why a lot of the starters didn't play huge minutes. I think 26 minutes for Tyrese Haliburton is the most by any starter on this Kings team. We did see Alex Len get in foul trouble again in this game, but I think he probably would have been pulled anyways. But Buddy Hield finally catching fire again. 21 points for Buddy Hield tonight. 4 3-pointers, made all of his free throws, shot above 50% from the field tonight, had a couple steals, no assists from him, 3 turnovers. How are you feeling about Buddy Hield?
I don't feel too much different about him. I mean, he had a good game. He finally was able to knock down some shots, and you knew that was going to happen at some point. It's not like the guy was never going to have a good shooting night ever again for the rest of his life. And they definitely needed somebody to score tonight, so it's a good thing that he did. But, that's not the reason they won or lost this game, his performance. So
Yep. Man, we got a ton of people here in the chat. Andrew, welcome. Makami, good to see you. Sean, T, Fred. Oh, dude, you got to tell me what your name is because you keep changing your name every time. Now it's Fire Monty if he doesn't make a move ASAP. Who else we got here? Kristen, good to see you, Kristen. Hopefully you're not getting in trouble at work again. Kristen misses Rashawn Holmes. I think we all do. Who else is in here? Brendan is here. Ramon, welcome, guys. Glad to have you all here. Cameron, the baby daddy, Patrick, man, Buddha. Good to see you guys all here in the chat. It's tough doing these after a loss, but having you guys in there cheering us up, makes it a lot easier. And hopefully we are here to cheer you guys up as well because I almost turned the game off. I was almost like, you know what? Caddyshack's on TV. I'm just going to watch Caddyshack. It's funny. I was watching a little bit earlier today. I'm like, wow, I've seen this movie like 1,000 times. It doesn't matter. Every time it's on TV, I'm like, oh, Caddyshack. I'll watch it. Might as well. Kristen says, I like Jones a lot.
yeah, I like Jones too. I mean, I think you could probably try to look to give him some more minutes.
Only 2 shots tonight, but 8 big boards and a lot of hustle plays.
Yeah.
A lot of hustle plays.
And we just talked about how bad the Kings are at defending the pick and roll. He is a big man that can actually get out and move his feet a little bit. So that would help in defending the pick and roll.
Yeah, and a block and a steal for him tonight as well. You want to talk about your keys to the game? Calvin lost his keys, I think. Couldn't find them, lost them at a party. Kings didn't know. We lose.
So we knew points were going to be at a premium in this game. So my keys to the game were centered around scoring. Number 1 was transition points. They got smoked in fast break points by the Cavs 22-8. Points in the paint. They actually won this category 64-52. And then my third point is bench points, which they also won 58-44. And part of that is probably just because the bench got so many minutes.
Yeah, and we're going to, in the third section of the show, we're going to release Cal's keys to the next game against the Toronto Raptors. There's only 2. I bet you can probably guess what they are. It's something the Kings have been missing in the past.
We are going back to the drawing board,
2
folks.
games. But I got a poll in the chat for you guys. Hopefully you all can contribute and let us know how you feel. Basically, what should the Kings do at this point? Stay the course, blow it up, add some pieces, trade everyone not named Fox and Haliburton. You could throw Rashawn in there, you could throw Davion in there, but it only allows me a certain amount of space. I can't fit all those guys in there. But it's tough, man. I do have to say, at halftime, I was feeling blow it up. I was just like, man, I'm so emotional right now. I know that it's only one bad game, and yesterday was a bad game as well. And, it's still kind of early in the season. If the Kings go on a 6-game win streak right now, I'll feel a little bit different. They just went on a 3-game win streak. It makes me feel like it is a little possible. But then I look at the schedule here. Raptors, Wizards, Grizzlies, Spurs. Then you got the Warriors, the Clippers, Grizzlies again. Back-to-back against the Mavericks. Man, there is a lot of tough games. There's still plenty of games to go. The Kings have a chance. I just think that chance is shrinking a little bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, the only thing the Kings have going for them right now is that the Western Conference is kind of a mess. I mean, we talked about it yesterday, below the top 3 seeds, everybody is hovering somewhere close to 500 or a little above or a little below. So that's the only thing they have going for them is they're like 3 or 4 games out of being in the mix of that 6 through 4 seed. But the problem is you have to string together a bunch of really, really good wins in a row.
Yep.
And we just haven't seen the Kings do that yet.
Andrew says, hey, Royal, do you know my cousin Frank? He has a bike shop in Kihei.
No, I don't personally. Do you?
I don't make it to Kihei very often, to be honest with you. I used to go there.
We're West Side.
Yeah, we're like Lahaina, Kaanapali area. I used to work at a brewery, and I used to go to Kihei Wailea like once a week to deliver beer, but I don't do that anymore, so we just kind of stick here to the West Side. But maybe we can introduce ourselves to him sometime. We got a roommate who loves bikes.
That is very true.
I still need to figure out.
And a producer that loves bikes.
Oh, yes. I forgot about Vinny, dude. Vinny is a bike fanatic. He is a bike fanatic. In the second part of the show, we're gonna have a special guest. We got Skip from SacTown Breakdown's going to join us. We're going to talk about trades. I'm going to fire up the trade machine. It's going to be a lot of fun. But, Cal, you want to talk about team stats on this game? Was anything that popped out to you, or you want to move on here?
The most glaring, we kind of touched on it already. There wasn't really, the Kings didn't get out-rebounded. They actually out-rebounded the Cavs by 1. They shot terribly from the free throw line. That's something that I noticed early on in the game, and it's a little troublesome. Even guys like Harrison Barnes are missing shots. The threes were terrible. The Kings shot 25%. But fast break points is really what I thought was the difference in this game. That's in that second quarter when the Cavs put up 45 points and they built that 27-point lead or 20-plus point lead. That's how they did it. The Kings were missing shots, whether they were close to the basket or not, and the Cavs were firing down court while there were still 3 or 4 Kings players below the free throw line on the other end. Yep. 22 fast break points to just 8 for the Kings. So that to me was the biggest difference in this game.
Let's talk a little bit about...
Even though there were other big differences, but that was the biggest difference.
Yeah. I think we can pretty much throw these team stats away. I kind of want to cruise past this section because I'm still hurting a little bit in this area from this game. But let's talk about a couple players real quick before we move on. First one I want to talk about, you mentioned Harrison Barnes. This is his third game back since injury. He hasn't scored over 16 points in a game since that injury. 12 points tonight, 4 of 10 from the field. Didn't make a three-pointer. What did you like? What did you dislike from HB tonight?
Well, I didn't like much, honestly. He still has the part of his game where he tries to get to the basket. I feel like the last 2 games he has done that a lot, and I've seen him looking around for a foul more than I can ever remember seeing him do that. So that's troubling to me. He's just struggling offensively. I'm not sure really what it is. Maybe he's still not 100% healthy. Maybe he hasn't worked himself back into game shape. But he is not playing like the same Harrison Barnes that started the season or finished last season, and it's concerning.
Yeah, it really is. He's a different Harrison Barnes. Do you think he's going to maybe grow out the beard this season?
I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. It's not like it's going to help get his game back. He needs to just continue to get in the lab and work. So
I do have to say, though, that has got to be the worst timing ever, right? For I'm going to grow my beard out. I'm not shaving until we make it to 500 and the NBA gets shut down for 6 months, dude. That's crazy. Tough. That is really crazy. All right. So we talked a little bit about Bagley, but not too much. First start for him, 22 minutes. I think this is probably one of the worst games I've seen from him. 7-7 tonight, 30% from the field, didn't make a 3. He had a nice block in the game, but offensively, he didn't have it tonight.
No, he didn't. I liked his energy going for offensive rebounds. He was all over the glass. And when your shot's not falling, as a big man, that's one of the things that you can still control is your effort rebounding. It's no surprise to me that he got the start, given that they were playing the tallest team in history and all that. And so
their small forward is 7 feet tall. Crazy, man.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's really, really nuts. I certainly wasn't surprised to see him start, and I will not be surprised to see him come off the bench against Toronto or later on after that. I felt like this was a matchup dependent sort of a thing, and it was a good opportunity for him. Unfortunately, he just wasn't able to really get things going offensively. hard for all the big men tonight with all those shot blockers in the lane. You know, really the only way that anybody was going to get a good look off was going to be from a guard penetrating and dishing it to them for a lob or for an easy shot inside.
Yeah, I agree. And it's weird. You look at Tristan Thompson tonight, only 9 minutes. He had 1 point, 4 rebounds. Like you said, this is not a game to post up your big man inside and let him work down below. And then you look at Terence Davis, who's been playing great. He had 28 points a couple games ago. He's been starting. He came off the bench. He only had 18 minutes tonight. 9 points. Didn't seem to be much of a factor.
Yeah, there really weren't many players that I considered to be much of a factor. You know, the only guy that I watched in this game and felt like he was really making a really positive impact on the game was Davion Mitchell, because he was the only guy that I saw playing both ends of the court. I mean, that sequence where he gets Darius Garland to get flagged for an offensive foul that was sweet to watch, man. That was really, really awesome.
Yeah, let's talk about Davion. So I watched his post-game presser. He basically says, I got to be better. He didn't put it on anybody else. He didn't put it on the team. He said, I got to be better. I got to step up. I got to play better defense. I got to play more consistent defense. He's saying all the right things. I love to hear that.
And he always will. That's just the type of person that he is.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Kings fans, you know, recently have felt like, you know, early on it was like, okay, well, at least we hit on a draft pick this year. We got another good guy at 9. And then, you know, he doesn't always have the numbers to back up that selection, even though he does a lot of other things on the court that don't show up on the stat sheet. But I feel like a lot of fans are kind of like waning on him. Like, okay, well, maybe, you know, you look at a guy like Jared Allen, you look at some of these other rookies, or no, sorry, not Jared Allen. Who am I talking about? Evan Mobley. You look at some of these other rookies, they're playing really well. They're scoring a lot. You know, there's a lot of hype around them. The hype on Davion Mitchell has fallen off as of lately. So it's good to see him finally get it a little bit back offensively. 14 points for him tonight. He hit 2 threes, 6 of 12 from the field. And like you said, awesome defense. So very, very happy to see that.
I just want to say the hype for him coming from me has not fallen off at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been sticking with this guy through his shooting struggles. He's been scoring much more consistently the past couple of weeks. I knew that his shot was eventually going to start falling. You know, he's very efficient with the ball. The last few games, he's had 4 or 5 assists and very few turnovers. I think he's starting to figure out how to be more aggressive and get to the basket as well. And then, yeah, I mean, he brings it defensively every single night. So there is so much to like about a guy like Davion Mitchell, despite the fact that he's undersized and people think that people say he doesn't, or he shoots too much, he doesn't pass, he's not a good enough shooter, all this stuff. This dude's going to succeed in the NBA. I don't know if it's going to be with Sacramento or not, but I would bet on Davion Mitchell.
Yeah, I think I would too. You know who played really good defense tonight? Isaac Okoro.
And that's what he's known for.
He's been killing it. And he led Cavs in scoring.
And he scored 20 points. Yeah.
So when you have a versatile wing defender like that and some big bodies inside that can protect the rim, there's no wonder why the Cavs are above 500 and looking like a potential playoff team. So,
and they're so young. I mean, they're going to be good for a while if they can keep this core together.
Yeah, we got to see Kevin Love tonight. Only 14 minutes for him. He is making a ton of money still on the Cavs.
Yeah.
I see him with his gray hair celebrating on the sidelines.
Yep.
Do you think he'll end up, getting bought out or moving on to a playoff contender or something like that? Not that the Cavs aren't. Obviously they're a young team. They're rebuilding. They're looking good, but I don't expect them to make it past the second round of the playoffs.
I don't either. Although I really am not sure. I mean, it depends on who they get matched up with in the playoffs, because this is a team that can give any team in the league fits due to their versatility, their size, their defense. And, Darius Garland is just – he's so smooth. He's really a sweet, sweet point guard.
Yep.
And so I think they will probably end up holding on to Kevin Love. I think they like his veteran leadership off the bench, a guy for these young guys to kind of, gel with and learn from. And I don't know. I don't have his stats here. I don't know what he's averaging, but he still seems to come in and score, in double figures pretty regularly for them off the bench. So, and they don't have a ton of scoring options coming off that bench either. So I think they probably will stick it out with him because they're starting to trend towards looking like a playoff team.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about Laurie Markanin in the last podcast. Maybe he's available, maybe he's not. Played 26 minutes tonight. Only 3 points for him. He didn't hit a single three.
Yeah.
He had, I think, a layup and a free throw. But he did a lot of other things. A couple assists, couple steals, couple rebounds. Not a good showcase for the Kings to go after this guy. But he's a big guy. He's huge. You look at this starting lineup, it's crazy thinking that you're playing against 3 7-footers. We all talk about the Lakers and how big that team is. But they're not starting 3 7-footers. And I don't care what you say. 6'11" is 7 feet to me.
It might as well be.
It is a big difference. Do you think the Cavs are missing out on anything not having Colin Sexton out there? Because they seem to be playing great.
They are playing great. They have to be missing something, though. Colin Sexton is a tremendous, tremendous player. Two-way player. I mean, the guy was averaging 25 a game for the majority of the year last year. So, of course, you're going to miss something with him not playing. But they hit big time with Evan Mobley and getting Laurie Markanin in there as well. This group is really working very well together. So,
yeah, we also saw Rubio out there playing pretty well. We saw Chetty Osman hitting a couple threes.
Man, more than a couple.
Big play for him, man. I was questionable about that guy. When LeBron was on the Cavs, I'm like, who is this guy and why is he getting playing time? But everyone talked about how hard he worked in practice and everything else, so it's good to see him.
He's really in a great role for this team right now. I never really felt like he should have been a starter in general. They just didn't really have any other options at that point. But him coming off the bench, he's what everybody that all Kings fans want Buddy Hield to be. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that's just going to come in, cherry pick, get himself open, and hit those threes. That's what they want Buddy Hield to do.
Yeah, and be consistent.
Yes.
Be consistent. Well, I think there's one guy that we haven't talked about yet, and then we're going to move on, and that's De'Aaron Fox. I see here in the chat, I don't know about Fox anymore. What's up, Richard? Good to see you here on the show. I don't know about Fox anymore. He is a good player, but man, no time for improvement anymore. I mean, there is time for improvement. You have to make time, otherwise you're not going to get better.
The problem with that statement is he's 23 years old. So if there's no time for improvement, you don't. I understand trading somebody if you're not happy with their play, but when you have a young, talented player that's 23 years old, you have to, no matter how good they are, you have to expect that they're still going to get better because they aren't even in their prime yet. So,
but 13 points and 1 assist is not going to cut it.
It's not going to cut it. And again, the starters, they were benched for a good portion of that second half. So their stats are going to reflect the fact that they just didn't get the normal minutes.
Yeah.
He got off to a really, really good start. I mean, he had 11 points there midway through the second quarter or something like that. Then he doesn't play for most of the second half. I liked what I saw from him offensively. He was aggressive. He didn't convert on a ton of those trips inside, but I kind of expected that coming in here because he was going to have to go up against all these 7-footers, and he didn't get a lot of foul calls either.
Yep.
Only one
shot at the free throw line.
I didn't like what I saw from him defensively. I felt like it was, again, this laziness. I see him consistently try to reach, whether it's around to get that back tap steal or to reach, relying on his quickness in the wrong way instead of trying to move his feet. Watching him and Davion Mitchell play defense, it's like night and day difference. Davion Mitchell, his whole goal is how do I stay in front of the guy I'm guarding, which is how you're supposed to play defense, especially as a guard. And Fox he just seems more to me of like,
I got to get this steal.
When is it? I'm looking for that one moment where I can reach in and poke the ball loose.
Yeah.
And that's even if you have 4 steals like you did yesterday, that doesn't mean you're playing good defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look the same on a stat sheet, but a bad shot or a contested shot and a steal is pretty much the same thing as long as you can secure the rebound. Yeah. And that's what I love about Davion Mitchell is the fact that Davion doesn't care about how many steals he has in a game.
Right.
He just wants his team to get the ball back.
Right.
And, yeah, you got to keep your man in front of you.
And when, for me, I loved playing defense. I loved the feeling that you got of completely shutting somebody down. I'd have games where I would only score like 6 or 7 points, but if I held my opponent or the guy that I was guarding all night to 2, 4 or 6 points, something like that, I was fired up. And so that I get that feeling watching Davion play. It's like, to me, ripping the ball out of somebody's hands is great and taking it the other way. But if I can play 10 solid seconds of defense and a guy cannot get by me, I'm in his head for the rest of the game.
You're a much different person on the basketball court than you are in real life. You're a nice guy, Cal, but out there you just want to shut people down and make them feel bad.
That's what you have to have. You have to have that killer instinct, that mentality. That's what we've talked about with Fox is something that we don't see all the time. That's missing.
That's
you don't
true.
See that Michael Jordan or Kobe-esque, not everybody is going to be on that level, but you don't see that kind of, I don't care what you do or it's how good you are, I'm stopping you right now. Yeah, it's
the alpha male.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the alpha male, and I don't care what you do, how good you are at something, I'm going to do it better.
Yes.
And I'm going to do it more consistently than you. Last thing I want to say, 8 assists from the starters tonight combined.
Yeah.
Not going to win a lot of games that way.
Not good. And 17 turnovers for the team.
Yeah, not going to win a lot of games there. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the Kings. We're going to fire up the trade machine. We're going to have Skip from SacTown breakdown here on our next section called Around the Crown. Welcome back. This is Around the Crown. We're talking all things Sacramento Kings and beyond. Join the Royal family by hitting that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, you might as well hit that like button. Calvin and I are Kings fans. I know you guys are all Kings fans. So hit that like button for us. We would really appreciate it. Pedro here in the chat says, why do people hate Fox so much?
I don't hate Fox.
I don't hate Fox either.
I don't hate Fox either. There's nothing wrong with saying, that your best player should be playing better. I mean, the reason I'm so hard on him sometimes is because of what I think of him as a basketball player. He's tremendously talented. He should be one of the best two-way players in the game. And it's frustrating to see that because it's one thing if you're going out there and you're just missing shots. Yeah, that sucks. But people miss shots.
Yep.
You can always control how hard you play on defense, and I don't see him giving the type of effort that I want to see from him on a daily basis.
Yeah, and you want him to be better. You want him to get better. It's not a hate at all, man. It's a wanting the team to be better. And, sometimes you look at some of the best GMs in basketball. Unfortunately, you have to not treat these guys like people sometimes, and you have to treat them like chess pieces, and you got to move them around and figure out what is the best for your team. It's nothing against De'Aaron Fox. I really love De'Aaron. I love watching him in college. I wanted the Kings to draft him. I've cheered him this entire way. I still enjoy him being on the team. But when the Kings are losing games and they're continuing to lose and lose and lose, you have to look at yourself, have some self-reflection, and you have to say, okay, is this guy better off moving on to another team and maybe creating something different? Or are we going to keep him here and build around him? So no hate for Fox on this channel at all. We love him. We also love the Kings, and we want some winning games. All right, we got Skip here from SacTown Breakdown joining us. Skip, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right,
Yes,
we can
sir.
hear
What's up,
you.
Skip?
What's up, buddy? How are you tonight?
Hey Cal, hey Barry. I'm blessed. I'm a little stressed. These Kings, you know what I'm saying? We call them the cardiac Kings, not just because they get our heart going, but because they play with our heartstrings.
That's right.
These cardiac Kings got me a little stressed. They keep breaking my heart. 3 to 4 out of 7 nights a week.
You got
Oh,
that right,
man. I know. At halftime, I wanted to shut the game off, and I'm like, we need to blow this thing up, trade everybody, and figure it out. And then they give me a little bit of hope there. I'm like, wow, it's a 7-point game. I'm getting excited. My girlfriend gets off of work. She comes in. She's like, wow, they're in it. They're in it. And then they just rip my heart out again. God. Crazy.
Right out the chest.
Right out the
man.
chest.
It sucks, but we're addicted, so we just keep watching.
Oh, yeah.
Is what it is.
It's like that one song, right? Hurts so good.
Hurts so good.
Keep doing it. We just keep doing it. All right, so Calvin and I broke down the game, and now we want to kind of move on here and talk about what to do in the future, some guys you like around the league that maybe the Kings should go after, some trades. We're going to fire up the trade machine. So I just want to hear your thoughts, Skip.
I was planning on doing this series where we would look back every 10 games at the Kings' performances, and I was taking notes per game, and I was compiling them, and I was screenshotting all of the different things. Luke Walton ended up getting let go, as we all know, and then the Gentry era started. The Kings just haven't been playing well enough for me to feel like I can devote more of my time to them. But if we take a look at, the 10 games, because I think we're at 10 games now in the Gentry era, the record is looking very similar as Luke Walton's did, the first 10 games of the year. I think we're 5-5 under the Gentry era now, right? Or something close. Mm-hmm. It's playing out exactly as I said it would. Once Luke Walton got let go, I told Kings fan to expect to see pace go through the roof and go even farther than what Luke Walton was talking about. But I said also expect a drop off of our defense. And at that time, I believe we were ranked 26th in defense. And then now at this point, we're 29th. So whoever's got that 30th spot, just give up, bro. Let us have it. You know, I mean, we're earning, being the worst defense in the league. So it's playing out exactly as I thought. The scoring has gone up, attempts have gone up, defense has gone down, and 10-game sample size. I still want to see another 10 games and assess the team under Gentry. From that standpoint, whoever he threatened in the second half obviously did something, in that locker room. He must have compromising pictures of someone, or must have threatened to give someone a noogie or a rip or a lumpkin, because guys came out and played much more inspired. But here's the thing. December 15th is coming up. We know that that the trades are going to open up, and there'll be less restrictions on who can be moved. So in that regard, my biggest target right now, who I feel like is going to make the biggest impact on our team, period, is Miles Turner. I would like to see our paint defense go up, and it also adds some spacing. So it's literally exactly what we need on both sides.
Yeah, I love Miles Turner a lot. I know Calvin does too. You think 100%. He could play alongside Richaun Holmes, or are you looking for a replacement?
I want to say this first. I love Richaun Holmes. I love the Holmes family. I love their celebrations after games. I love how Dr. Holmes comes on. She gives good critiques across the board for the guards, for the bigs, for her son, for everybody. So the Holmes family is royalty in my mind and in my heart in Sacramento. But we have been bad for so long, and we deserve to get better so bad that I am completely willing to trade Richaun if that's what it takes to get Miles Turner here, so we can start winning and so we can get to a play-in and eventually a playoff game.
Interesting. Your thoughts, Cal?
It's hard to argue with that. I mean, the thing about Miles Turner is he hasn't been given the opportunity to really show what he can do. And he's spoken out about that himself, saying, I think I'm a glorified role player here. I believe that I can contribute more. So whether that's on Indiana or another team, that's what he's going for. And he's young. He's 25 years old. He's improved his game every year, and he brings a lot to the table. So I think if you have an opportunity to get somebody like that, even if it means giving up Richaun Holmes, I would be okay with it in the long run.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you on that, but it still leaves that void at the 4 position, because that's what this Kings team needs, is a starting 4. We all thought that Marvin Bagley was going to be that guy, and tonight was the first chance seeing him start in that position. But if you just do a swap, Richaun and whatever else it takes, maybe another young guy and some picks to get a Miles Turner, who are you going to put in that 4 spot? Because I don't think Harrison Barnes is a good option night in and night out at that position.
Skip, Ollie, you go ahead first.
I appreciate it. I do agree. We still have, a hole at the 4. There's uncertainty around that spot. There's no doubt about it. I agree. I'm one of the, I guess, rare people at this point that I believe I'd like to see Holmes play more at the 3 than at the 4. And I'm in the comments as well, so I see people in the comments, talking about blow it up and all that stuff. But here's the thing. We have pieces, and we have to continue to build. Blowing it up is going to leave us 5 more seasons, away from potentially being in the playoffs. And I get it. We're always 2 years away from being 2 years away. But there is a remnant of what Monty McNair is trying to build. And I say we continue to build on top of it. And with building, how do you build? 1 brick at a time. So that 4 spot is something that we need to figure out. And there's no doubt about it in my mind that Sabonis is a more talented player, and I'll even say a more valuable player. If you even want to say a better player than Miles Turner. But you draft best player available and you handle needs via trades, and we have a big need for, as far as paint protection. We need, more size. And if we can get size and that in one player, and in defense is our biggest need, because we have, we score enough points, and we don't score consistently enough. Don't get me wrong, but we end up scoring quite a bit of points, and especially with Alvin Gentry having attempts go up. So I say, let's go ahead and address the defensive thing. If we can just get better at defense, if bringing in Miles Turner, not only the defense that he brings in, but how he inspires others to play better defense. If we can just bring points per game down just by 4, then that's a significant impact. But I believe his impact will, could potentially over the span of about, 13 to 20 games, can drop that possibly by 7. And then that puts us in a better position, in a more winning position. So 1 thing at a time, let's address defense first. And then, that power forward spot, let's figure that out, or maybe even we figure that out too. Maybe there's another trade that gets facilitated, but I want to address our defense first and foremost. And I'm going to go with Miles Turner as to be the antidote for that.
I think it makes it a lot easier on some of these guards too, when you can trust that you have a big man inside that's either going to get a block or make somebody pay for going to the basket. So maybe guys like De'Aaron Fox or Davion Mitchell are going to feel like, okay, well, now I can keep my guy in front of me because I don't have to worry if he gets past me that he's going to have an open layup or something like that. One guy I saw tonight, Cal and I have been talking about a little bit, was Kevin Love. He seems to be rotting on the bench in Cleveland. I know he makes a lot of money, but what would you feel about maybe Kevin Love and Miles Turner front court for the Kings?
I think we could do a lot worse than Kevin Love, and I am someone who I've been a fan of Kevin Love for quite some time. How he handles himself on and off the court, some of the personal things that he helped bring to the light around mental illness, mental awareness, and all of those different things. Still has a sweet stroke. Veteran leadership, of course. The salary is the biggest thing for me because Fox's salary, we got Buddy's salary, which may or may not get off the books. We have Barnes' salary, and I don't expect us to land any big free agents, So I feel a little different how most people feel about salaries, but he does have a big ticket that would get put on our books. So I wouldn't be completely against it if we could make it work, but what we would have to give up in order to get him would be pretty significant, and it may deplete us. And remember, our bench is like top 3 in the league on production. So if we have to give up too much of that, then, I don't want to say it could hurt us more than help us, but it may end up being like a net neutral as opposed to a net positive. I want to piggyback off of defense real quick, just for 15 seconds. You mentioned
defense,
something,
man. We could talk defense all day, Skip.
Okay. Because me and Cal were like, I was a 3-and-D guy. I was locking you down on one end, and I was trying to get that fast break and finish, or just hit the open three. I always prided myself on defense, but especially defense around stats is very misleading. And the biggest thing to that is how defense is played. It's better that you make someone change their shot than block their shot, because you're only going to get so many blocks, even as a really good rim protector. But if you can make someone take uncomfortable shots, fadeaway threes, drifting threes, have to change direction in the air a bunch of times, that's better defense as a guard, as a perimeter player, as opposed to getting a steal, because steals happen, and then sometimes the offensive player gets the steal back. You're out of the play now because you tried to start heading towards down the court. Now it's 4-on-5 and they get the bucket anyway. If you can make a ball handler pick up their dribble, if you can stop them from the offensive idea that they had in their head, that's better defense. And that's the type of defense I want to see from De'Aaron Fox. That's the type of defense I want to see from, the limited amount of wings that we have. It's just making people change their shots and pick up their dribble. That's something that Alex Len does a solid job of with his height and his wingspan, and as well as Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell is fantastic at making people change directions and pick up their dribble. So don't worry about steals so much, y'all. Don't worry about block shots. Put those away, because you're only going to get so many of those. But as Cal says, you can always control your effort. And if you're controlling your effort, chances are you're getting in front of people, cutting them off, making them comfortable, making them uncomfortable, making them pick up their dribble, making them change their shots. When we start seeing more of that in Sacramento, not just block shots and stuff, but we just start seeing more of that, we're going to start to see more wins.
Yeah, for me, defense is great and all, but it doesn't matter how good defense you play if you can't get rebounds. If you're playing defense 23 seconds and then they get an offensive rebound and they get the ball back, that's so deflating for your team. And the only reason I mentioned Kevin Love is since Kevin came into the league, there's only one guy that's had more double-doubles than him, and that's Dwight Howard. So I feel like he could stretch the floor on offense. He can get you some rebounds on defense, and you have Miles Turner in the middle. But, Cal, I want to hear your thoughts on maybe pairing these guys, because I think maybe you could do a Buddy Hield and a pick for a guy like Kevin Love.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with a lot of what Skip said. I think they'd actually be a really good pair together, Miles Turner and Kevin Love. The price tag on him is a little concerning, and I'm not a big, like you said, I'm not a big salary, watcher, or I don't like to use the phrase timeline guys either. But Kevin Love, to me, does sort of fall into that. I'm not sure. Maybe he comes in and he helps for a year and a half, and maybe even the Kings make a playoff run or run into the playoffs in that stretch. But then he's probably going to be done after that. So I don't know if it's worth taking on that much salary for such a short window compared to all these other guys, young guys that you have.
Like Chris Paul with Phoenix.
Well, that's different, though, because they're already in a win-now mode.
Okay.
The Kings are not. And yes, he's part of what helped propel them into that, but they already had the pieces around him that were ready to win. They just needed him to complete that. I don't think Kevin Love comes in and completes that we're ready to win in Sacramento scenario. Yep. And I totally agree with everything Skip said about defense. To me, it's such the most glaring, obvious need that this team has at the moment. So that's my priority in trying to bring in new pieces. Yes, you're going to want to find guys who are still going to be able to help you offensively and play well with Fox, with Haliburton, whoever it's going to be. But it has to be somebody that's going to change things on the defensive end for them. Mm-hmm. And Miles Turner just fits that bill so much. And that's why I like him more than Sabonis, because, Sabonis is going to come in and play at an all-star level and score. But I don't see him on the defensive end changing the game the way that Miles Turner does. And I also think on that note that because we haven't seen Miles Turner in a sort of you're the guy type deal, his offensive production might increase a lot. It might not go up to 20 points, but maybe he scores 16, 17 points a game while grabbing 7, 8 rebounds and blocking 3 shots a game. If you could have that as your starting center in Sacramento, that would be huge, absolutely huge. And in terms of, flipping him for Richaun Holmes, you might have a guy in Miles Turner that you could actually play through offensively as a big man. Richaun Holmes, you can get him the ball, and if he has a little space, he puts up the push shot or he's there for a lob, and he can score 20 points, but it's dependent off of everybody else. I don't have a lot of confidence in giving him the ball on the block and saying, go get a bucket every time.
Yeah.
So that's that's why I value Miles Turner so much. I think there's the potential along with the way he changes the game defensively.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you there. Are there any other guys, Skip, around the league that you're like, the Kings need to go out and get this guy?
Honestly, that's really the biggest one, and my primary one. I guess that's where if Skip is boring anywhere, it's like going and getting players just because just after so many years, of hoping and wishing and wanting, I see the reality of the fact that, the Kings don't make a whole lot of moves. So I usually only kind of, my wish list from Santa Claus is really small. Okay. I've gotten enough coal over the years to learn.
There's nothing wrong with that, man. I mean, we know that this guy's been made available, right? So if he's the guy you want, then let's go get him. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. And
please, Monty Claus, bring me Miles Turner for Christmas. I promise I'll be a good little Skip.
Yeah, I like that Monty Claus. That's funny. One thing that Calvin and I both talked about on the last podcast was, once Monty fired Luke, there's no more fall guy. Luke was the fall guy. And now that Luke's gone, you can't blame this on Alvin. Alvin's put in a tough position. He's doing the best he can. But if it's not Luke's fault, whose fault is it at this point, right? Like, it's got to be the players, right? So that's when you start to make a move.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely on the players at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the other side of it is, well, more even than players, and the players matter. Don't get me wrong, but y'all have heard me say before. I want a coach. I want Kenny Atkinson or Mike D'Antoni, and I just believe that they can push the team either even farther in the directions that we would go. I primarily would want Kenny Atkinson just because, like I said, he's got the get it out the mud kit. But we see a semblance of a team that we have here. We see what Monty's trying to build, and people can say that coaches don't matter or coaches only matter so much. And it is true up until a degree, but the better coaches are the ones that are more effective and that can get through to their guys. So with what we have and what we can, probably get in the draft, and we do have some pieces that we can trade and get things back. I really want to see, I want to see a coach here. That's the biggest thing that I feel like will make really the biggest difference. And Alvin Gentry, you could do worse, with the interim coaches. I'm so glad that he is our coach. Just hearing his post games and stuff, doesn't it feel like you hear a real NBA coach talking as opposed to Luke Walton? So it makes a difference. But
that monotone voice from Luke it puts me to sleep every time. I'm sorry.
That's funny.
Completely. But yeah, I want the coach. So if we can improve the defense by getting Miles, and then if we can just get a even better coach, then I especially ones like I said that's centered around defense. I keep saying this at least as an assistant coach, and then I'd rather have him as an assistant coach and then maybe a head coach depending on if we can't get D'Antoni, if we can't get especially Ken Atkinson, but Steve Clifford. I mean, I think he's the closest, coach to turn a team around defensively next to Thibs and next to Nate McMillan as you can get. Steve Clifford will come in here and he will turn this team into a defensive team. So if we can't get him as an assistant coach and we can't get the other guys, then I would absolutely take him as a head coach.
Yeah, I agree
with that. Yeah.
And that's something, that unfortunately we'd have to wait to the end of the season to happen. I see Cam here in the chat. He makes a good point. Holmes can't be traded until April 2022. It's actually January 14th of 2022 when Richaun Holmes can be traded because he was re-signed this offseason. So if you were to include Holmes in a Miles Turner trade, it could not be until about a month from now. But something needs to be done. Something needs to be done very soon. I see a lot of guys here in the chat talking about Ben Simmons. Skip, you want to give us your thoughts on Big Ben?
I would love to. Big Ben Simmons, the one that cowers in the moment, passes up on dunks, can't shoot,
I love it
can't shoot free throws either.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, right. Incredible defender, fantastic court vision because of his height. Very strong player. A player who has a weak mentality. Never worked on his shot. Decided to go work out with his brother instead of hire an actual trainer. And in off seasons before. And someone who, despite of some honesty that was said about him, instead of proving people wrong, Philly media wrong, and all that, would rather just curtail on the team and dip out instead of work on his game, have a Mamba mentality and show everybody that he deserves to be there. And also a player that's been propped up on the performances of Joel Embiid. That's how I feel about him. So if Kings got him, I wouldn't boo-hoo and I wouldn't cry. But what the heck are we giving up for a guy that averages 13 points per game or whatever? And
hasn't played in who knows how long.
And did all that in the East, not in the West.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think just a lot of people that just want change, and
for
it's
sure.
just
That's
whatever
what
it takes to change this team. They want change. So they're just all shouting out names. But Cal, you want to give, I've heard your thoughts on this 1,000 times.
Yeah. I mean, Skip and I, we are very like-minded in a lot of ways. I can see this already. So yeah, I have a lot of the same feelings about Ben Simmons.
You guys love defense, and Ben is a great defender.
Well, yes. So I've never once said that I wouldn't want to have Ben Simmons on my team to help defensively, because he would. You keep bringing up he should be in this Draymond Green role. I'm just not so sure. After everything I've seen from Ben Simmons with the way he carries himself, his attitude and all that stuff, I don't see him being a Draymond Green. And I also think that he is most effective if he's going to have the ball in his hands primarily to run your offense, especially in transition, which Draymond Green does from time to time. But I see them as very different players. They have a lot of the same skill set, but I see them as very different players. And the red flags to me are just too big. His attitude, the way he carries himself, his inability to, I think Skip's point to not trying to come out here and prove people wrong and work on your game. You just read that quote from DeAndre Ayton the other day on our podcast about how he isn't going to hang his head. He didn't get his max or his canoe contract. And all he knows he can do is outwork people and prove that he is worth that. And eventually he's going to get it. That's the difference between him and Ben Simmons. And I know Ben Simmons already got the big payday, so maybe that is incentive for him to not work as hard. But to me, that's just another red flag. It's like, you're still young, man. You haven't really done anything. You've been paid, but you haven't done anything in this game. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals. They almost got there. But you haven't proven anything yet. You've made all-star teams. You've made all defensive teams. But outside of that, people still think that you're the guy that doesn't show up and can't hit free throws and won't shoot.
Which is crazy for a guy that plays such good defense, because you feel like these guys that are great defenders have to be hard-headed. They have to have thick skin and not get offended when your coach throws you under the bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just got to read.
And let's be honest. Did he throw him under the bus, or did he just tell the truth about what happened? I mean, that's literally what happened in the game. And then he got asked a question and he answered. I mean, I don't know. And you said something, and I want to point it out. Not that he can't shoot, because when he started shooting, he hit a few threes. He literally decided not to shoot. Remember that Brett Brown had to call him and his family or his agent into office and said, hey, I asked you to shoot 1 3 per game. You shot a few and then you stopped doing it. If you don't start shooting threes again, I can fine you, I can bench you, and I don't want to do that. And he still didn't do it. That's a mentality problem. I want to remind people, this is not a Chris Webber trade. This guy is built different. This is not going to give us Chris Webber results taking a flyer on this guy. I just want to remind people of that.
No, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah, me too. We're going to let you go here, Skip, but I want to read one last thing real quick. The last time the Sacramento Kings were in the playoffs, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and Cars were the two top movies in the nation. Twitter was just created, and Barry Bonds just hit his 715th career home run, passing Babe Ruth for all time. Crazy, huh?
And I was 20 years old, and I couldn't even drink yet.
Yeah, neither could we.
Yeah, that's wild. So one last question for you. You're always wearing a really nice hat every time. Where do you get all your hats from?
Between Lids and then the arena when I go. Those are the two main places I get my hats.
Okay, awesome. Anything else, Cal?
Thanks, man. Thank you for coming on. We always appreciate having you. I love talking to you. We got to go watch a game in Sacramento at some point here soon.
Yep. Thanks, Skip.
Can't wait to meet y'all. Always a pleasure. Blessings and aloha.
All
Aloha.
right. Have a good night.
Too.
Welcome to Royal Rebounds TV, your favorite Sacramento Kings YouTube channel. The Kings continue their crusade to get back to the playoffs. Next up is the Toronto Raptors. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you hit that like button down below and consider subscribing to the channel. So, Cal, another game coming up. We have plenty of games to go.
Yeah.
Kings are losing games, and it's really unfortunate. But next up is the Raptors. You have an update on their COVID outbreak that's going on?
You know, I actually don't. I should have looked at that, but let's try it. I'll try to pull something up here real quick.
While you're doing that, I will read your keys to the game. He's only got 2 of them tonight. As I mentioned earlier, they both revolve around defense.
That's right.
Number 1 is pick and roll defense. Number 2 is transition defense. The Kings have played absolutely zero defense in the past 2 games. I'm going to see how many times I can say defense in this segment. Defense, 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 defense. The Kings need to play some fucking defense. I want to see defense. You can't be giving up this many points. Thanks, Vinny. How can you win games when you're giving up 45 points in a quarter? It is absolutely outrageous. As we mentioned, the Kings are on a road trip right now. Tough back-to-back. Last night they lost. They traveled again to Cleveland. They lost tonight. They're probably on a plane right now to Toronto. They're going to have a little bit of time. You know, this game is not until Monday. So they have a little bit of time to prepare. Not a lot.
Yeah.
But you got an update for us?
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like they're missing that many guys. I'm looking at their box score here against the Knicks, and just about everybody that should play is playing. So I know their GM, Masai Ujiri, has COVID.
That's not going to help us.
But that's not going to help the Kings.
Maybe he's at home and Monty can call him about a Siakam trade or something like that.
I guess maybe something like that.
Also, I want to give you guys a quick update. The Rockets did lose tonight again. I kind of expected this point. And also the Warriors lost. Steph Curry did not break the record. I think he only had like 2 or 3 threes tonight. So live to die another day, as they say. So you wanna talk about your keys a little bit, elaborate for us?
Yeah, I mean, the Kings just have to get back to the drawing board here. It's nothing like groundbreaking, but pick and roll defense is tough because this is something that you actually need to work on in practice regularly. So it's not like they're going to have a huge chance to correct a lot of these issues just before this next game on Monday. However, you have to have a better game plan going in on how you're going to handle pick and rolls.
Yep.
The Kings, they just seem too indecisive a lot of times. One of the things I loved from this second unit today that helped get them back into the game was how aggressive they were on pick and rolls. They were pushing the guards away from the basket, trying to blitz and trap, and then rotating after that. I feel like that's how you have to handle this. And De'Aaron Fox, he just goes under the screen too many times for me. I don't see him try to fight over the screen enough. It's one thing if you get stuck on a really, really good screen and you're not able to fight your way over. But I feel like so much of what ruins the Kings defensively is they're not good enough initially on the pick and roll, and then from there you put your rotations in such a horrible spot. Even if you do rotate well, you're still going to be at a disadvantage. So they have to have a better game plan for how they're going to handle pick and rolls. And then transition defense is very simple. You just have to get back. I mean, I don't know how many times I saw tonight, there were just almost every player for the Kings was below the free throw line on the offensive side of the court. And the Cavs had 3 or 4 guys that were already at half court or farther. So sometimes it's tough. You miss a shot, they get a quick rebound and an outlet and they go. But transition defense is a matter of effort. It's a matter of spacing on the floor. It goes into how you run your offense. Mm-hmm. You know, if De'Aaron Fox is going to try to break people down off the dribble and get to the rim over and over again, especially in transition or when they first come across half court, there's no need for me to have 4 guys right around the basket.
Yeah.
So it's just basically what it is. Comes down to is, again, effort, because that's what defense is, but it's also having a better game plan in general of how you're going to execute. You know, you have to know what the other team likes to do, obviously, coming into any given matchup, and you have to know what your deficiencies are defensively. We know that the Kings are not good at closeouts, defending the 3, and if you don't set yourself up off of a pick and roll, which pretty much every team in the NBA starts their offense out with a pick and roll. Mm-hmm. So if you already put yourself in a bad position there, then there's going to be wide open looks either from 3 or at the basket all night long.
Yeah, and Fred VanVleet has been letting it fly this season. Very, very impressed by his play. It looks like...
and don't forget, Gary Trent Jr. plays for the Raptors, and we all know how he loves to destroy the Kings.
And he was drafted by the Kings. Yeah. And then they traded him.
And he went 5 for 7 from 3 tonight, by the way.
Looks like Kem Birch is out. OG Anunoby is out.
Oh, yeah,
Precious Achiuwa is day-to-day. Right. And David Johnson is day-to-day. Wow, I didn't know David Johnson plays basketball. I used to have him on my fantasy team. Fantasy football.
I think he got sick of how bad the Texans were. He decided to cross over.
So the Raptors are 3-5 in their last 5 games, just like the Sacramento Kings. ESPN is predicting Toronto. They're giving them a 52.3% chance to win this game. I don't think the spread has come out at this point. But, you know, you mentioned defense is very important. I'm also going to say the Kings need to play some offense in this game. They only scored 103 points tonight. I don't think their defense is good enough to hold a lot of teams under 100 points, so they need to score a little bit more as well.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I agree with that. The thing is, the Kings are one of the better scoring teams in the league, especially in the last week or so. They've been, scoring a ton of points. I think they're 4th or 5th in the league in points in the paint. Their offensive efficiency has been up over the past week or so. So today, they missed a ton of shots and they played a really good defensive team. But I don't ever go into a game saying, man, the Kings better score, 120 points tonight.
Yep.
It's how much are they going to give up? To me, the 110 to 113 point range is still a little high, but if they could just stay in that range, they'd have a good chance to win most nights.
Yeah, I agree. The Raptors are 12-14. Kings are 11-16 at this point. So it's pretty close. If the Kings could have won either this game or the last game, they could have won last night. They'd have a very, very similar record to the Raptors. We know the Raptors had a really, really slow start, not having Siakam available, and they've kind of picked it up as of late. Should be an interesting game for us Kings fans. Hopefully, it is the last game that Richaun Holmes misses, and hopefully he'll be ready to play against the Wizards on Wednesday or back at home against the Grizzlies on Friday. We're looking here at the schedule. Raptors, Wizards, Grizzlies, Spurs. Then you go Warriors, Clippers. I know they beat the Clippers twice last week. not a lot of these games look like winnable games to me.
Yeah.
Any games you're circling on the calendar as a must-win, or are they all must-win at this point?
Oh, they're all must-wins. They're all must-wins. They have to be. Must-win is it's a very strong term. Obviously, it's not a must-win at this point. They're not going to be mathematically eliminated from the playoffs if they lose any of those games. But you have to, at some point, you have to start getting back on track here. They can't just stick around this 10 to 11 range for the entirety of the season. They're not a consistent enough team. I almost said they're not a good enough team, which may or may not be true, but they're not a consistent enough team to have to rely on a 3, 4, 5 game win streak in mid-March to get them into the play-in tournament.
Yeah,
right?
Or to get them close.
Yeah,
close
exactly.
to the play-in tournament. So for this Raptors game, what are you expecting as far as the starting lineup for the Kings? Because they seem to be all over the board here. I don't know if it was Marvin starting tonight just because of the size, or they're trying to give him a little bit more confidence. Obviously, he's been playing a ton more under Alvin Gentry.
I think it was probably a little of both. You know, certainly the reason that they went to Marvin was because of the stretch of games that he had in the past, but also because they knew they needed somebody with more size to go into this game.
So you think Terence Davis is going to be back in the starting lineup? How are you feeling about that?
I think that Coach Gentry really likes Terence Davis. So I certainly would not be surprised to see him start, especially because the Raptors guards, you know, particularly with Anunoby not being out there, are relatively small. So I would not be surprised to see Terence Davis go back into the starting lineup. But the question for me, and I think for every Kings fan all season long, has been who is the starting power forward.
Yep.
You know, Harrison Barnes coming back healthy, we all expect him to start every night for the Kings, but he's been he's struggled a lot over these past few games.
Mr. Consistency has not been living up to his name.
Very consistent. So I'm not really sure who gets the start at the 3 and 4 for them.
Jug says starting lineup for defense should be Davion Mitchell, Doug Christie, Ron Artest, Chris Webber, and DeMarcus.
Oh, man.
That's one hell of a lineup.
That's one hell of a lineup. Davion Mitchell better work his ass off because he's playing with a lot of old people and injured people.
And DeMarcus Cousins is not the greatest defender either. You know, great player, but not known for his defense.
I'm assuming you're taking all of those guys in your prime. That would be a phenomenal lineup. But
yeah, yep. Even with the limited amount of action we've seen from Davion.
Yeah.
As far as the Raptors game goes, I'm going to throw something out here. I know that Monty watches this podcast regularly because he takes our opinions and our thoughts all the time.
Yes.
You and I talked about starting Metu. They started Metu. We talked about starting Bagley. Now they're starting Bagley. I want to see Terence Davis and Marvin Bagley in the starting lineup on this game. I want to try Marvin at the 5. If you're really going to play small ball and you're going to...
Barnes will be your 4 then?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
If you're really going to play small ball and try and outrun all these teams and outscore these teams, I think you got to put Marvin at the 5. I saw a big block for him tonight. I know that's not something you can expect all the time, but I would love to see Bagley at the 5, Barnes at the 4, Terence Davis, Haliburton, and Fox, and let them run. Let's unleash that 7 seconds or less offense that Alvin Gentry is known for, and let's just test it out for a game and see what happens.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm looking at who the Raptors started today against the Knicks. I'm assuming this game was today. Their front court is actually pretty big. Siakam, Chris Boucher, and Scotty Barnes.
Yep.
I don't know who Terence Davis is guarding in that group.
You don't need to guard.
They
already can't
we just
guard.
Talked the whole show
They
about
already
defense,
can't
and
guard.
now you don't need to guard.
They already can't guard. Just score. Just score. Maybe you throw a defensive lineup out there when you need to, but I'm talking about getting a hot start to the game because you look at the past couple games, they got down early, and that's where it hurts them, is because they're fighting an uphill battle the whole game. The starting lineup is much different than a finishing lineup. When you need defense on the court, maybe you bring some of those other guys in. But I just like to see this team get out to a hot start and play ahead for once. It feels like we haven't been ahead, and even though we were on a 3-game winning streak, it feels like we haven't been ahead for a while.
Yeah, that's true. They did not lead at all today. So
very, very rough game. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up the show here. Cal, anything else you want to say?
Shout out to SacTown Breakdown. Thanks again for being available and coming on the show. We always love having you on. And shout out to all you guys in the chat. Everybody was really, really big in the chat today, and we really appreciate everyone who tunes in to this show. It makes, like Barry said, it makes it a lot easier for us to come on after a rough game and do this. So thank you.
Yeah, you guys are all awesome. We love all your support. Make sure you guys hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button. We will catch you all Monday evening after the Raptors game. We'll see if there's any big trades before then, maybe a win. Who knows? But we'll have a ton to talk about, and we'd love to see you all there. So have a good night. And in the meantime, go Kings.
Go Kings.